Alright, imagine this. You think you know the trick, you think you've seen how it's done, and then the curtain lifts and suddenly the game changes again. That's exactly the promise being teased right now with Now You See Me 4, a film that surprisingly is already in development before audiences have even seen Now You See Me Now You Don't hit theaters. And according to director Ruben Fleischer, this next chapter isn't just another sequel. In his words, it's meant to push the franchise even further than before. But is this a natural evolution of a beloved series, or a case of Hollywood pulling another rabbit from a hat a little too quickly? Let's talk about it. Because while the studio is clearly confident and the director sounds genuinely enthusiastic, there are some real questions worth asking about where Now You See Me goes from here, and whether bigger automatically means better. The conversation started when Ruben Fleischer spoke with Coming Soon about the future of the franchise. Fleischer, who directed Now You See Me, Now You Don't, the third film set to release in 2025, was asked what excites him most about continuing the story into a fourth installment. And his response was anything but reserved. "Yeah, I'm so excited," said Fleischer. "I really love the experience of making this movie. These actors are all terrific. They also just happen to love working together. I knew that was true of the original cast, but the three new kids just folded in seamlessly, and everybody just kind of fell in love, and it was really beautiful." That's a strong statement, and honestly, it's one filmmakers love to make when a set genuinely works. Chemistry is everything for a franchise built on ensemble energy, myth direction, and fast-talking charisma. Without that spark, the illusion falls apart quickly. But Fleischer didn't stop there. He went on to highlight something that doesn't always get talked about in blockbuster filmmaking: how much the cast actually enjoys being together off-camera. We're all kind of sad, honestly, that Rosamund Pike won't be in the next one because she also was just so fun. We all hung out. We were in Budapest and Abu Dhabi, and we had a great time making the movie. That detail matters more than it might seem. A franchise like Now You See Me thrives on camaraderie, the sense that these characters trust each other even when the audience doesn't fully know what's real. When that energy is genuine, it tends to translate on screen. Still, there's an interesting note buried in that quote. Rosamund Pike won't be returning for the next film. Whether that's a story decision or a scheduling reality remains unclear, but it does raise questions about how stable the cast lineup will be moving forward. And that brings us to Fleischer's bigger vision. "I feel really lucky to be able to continue telling this story, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I just take what we built in this last one and then bring it to the next level and keep pushing it forward." That phrase, "next level," is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Because in Hollywood, next level can mean a few different things. It can mean smarter storytelling, deeper character arcs, or more inventive set pieces. But it can also mean louder, bigger, and more expensive, which doesn't always align with what fans actually want. So the real question becomes, what does Now You See Me look like when it keeps pushing forward? To understand where this franchise might be headed, it helps to look at where it's been. The original Now You See Me released in 2013, directed by Louis Leterrier, and it quickly became a surprise hit for Lionsgate. With a reported budget of around $75 million, the film went on to earn approximately $351.7 million worldwide, a massive return that almost guaranteed a sequel. Audiences were drawn in by the slick presentation, the mystery-driven plot, and a cast that knew exactly how to sell the illusion. Jesse Eisenberg's rapid-fire delivery as J. Daniel Atlas became iconic, while Woody Harrelson's Merritt McKinney added comedic unpredictability. Dave Franco brought youthful energy, Isla Fisher grounded the group, and Morgan Freeman added gravitas. The sequel, Now You See Me 2, arrived in June 2016, under director John M. Chu. While it didn't quite match the cultural buzz of the original, it still performed solidly and expanded the mythology. Chu would later go on to direct In the Heights and the upcoming Wicked adaptations, proof that the franchise has always attracted filmmakers on the rise. Now, nearly 10 years later, the series is preparing for its third film, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, scheduled to hit US theaters on November 14, 2025. And it's that third film that seems to be laying the groundwork for everything that comes. According to Fleischer, one of the biggest shifts in the third movie is the introduction of a new generation of magicians. The original Four Horsemen reunite, but they're joined by younger talent, a move that feels both strategic and risky. On one hand, it's a smart way to keep the franchise alive. New faces bring new energy, new audiences, and potential longevity. On the other hand, fans don't always respond well when legacy characters start sharing the spotlight too heavily. That said, Fleischer seems confident the balance works. The returning cast includes Jesse Eisenberg as J. Daniel Atlas, Woody Harrelson as Merritt McKinney, Dave Franco as Jack Wilder, Isla Fisher as Henley Reeves, Morgan Freeman as Thaddeus Bradley. Joining them are Justice Smith from Dungeons & Dragons Honor and Theft, Dominic Sessa from The Holdovers, Ariana Greenblatt from Barbie, and Rosamund Pike from Gone Girl. That's a stacked lineup, and it signals that Lionsgate isn't playing small with this installment. Still, blending old and new is a delicate trick, and if the execution isn't precise, it can feel more like a reboot in disguise than a true continuation. And that's where some healthy doubt creeps in. Because while the enthusiasm is real, franchises don't always benefit from being extended indefinitely. At some point, the mystery that once felt clever can start to feel mechanical. The twists become expected, the reveals feel less magical. The danger isn't that Now You See Me 4 exists, it's that it leans too hard on escalation rather than innovation. That said, there's reason for cautious optimism. Fleischer's comments don't sound like corporate obligation. They sound like someone who genuinely enjoyed the process and wants to build on what worked. His focus on chemistry, shared experience, and storytelling momentum suggests an awareness that this franchise lives or dies by how believable the illusion feels, not just how big it looks. And timing matters too. By the time Now You See Me, Now You Don't arrives in 2025, it will have been nearly 10 years since the last installment. That gap could work in the franchise's favor, allowing nostalgia to mix with freshness rather than fatigue. Still, audiences will ultimately decide whether this series still has more tricks worth watching. Can the franchise continue to surprise without repeating itself? Can the newer characters stand alongside the originals without diluting what made them special? And does pushing things to the next level mean smarter storytelling or just raising the volume? Those are questions no press quote can answer. For now, what we know is that Now You See Me 4 is coming. The creative team is confident, and Lionsgate clearly believes there's more magic left in the tank. Whether that confidence pays off, we'll have to wait and see. So let me ask you, do you think Now You See Me still has room to grow, or should the story wrap things up sooner rather than later? Are you excited about the newer generation of magicians, or do you want the focus to stay firmly on the original Horsemen? And what would you want to see changed or kept exactly the same in a fourth film? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more movie news like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Movie Century, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.